Yeah, it's incredible. It looks like we're going to have an incredible season ahead of us. The teams have stepped up their level of professionalism once more, and it looks like we're going to have a really competitive season. The two guys on first and second, the 200s are second apart, so you can't get closer than that. And we've got some really good professionals in now, and the other guys, even the amateurs, have upped their game and they're really driving well. And the series is just getting better and better. We've got a lot more cars to come for the next round and everything. So I'm very happy with the development. The series is going really well, and yeah, it's great. And to be here in Korea again is very nice. This track is a brilliant facility, and we're all happy here. And we've got beautiful weather, so it looks like we're going to have a great day ahead of us.
Welcome to Korea International Circuit for round one of the 2015 GT Asia Series. We're back here where it all started 12 months ago, and what a season it was then. Of course, that was taken out by two-time and now three-time champion Clearwater Racing. Mok Weng Sun taking his third title. We see cars on circuit now led by Richard Lyons, who took pole position in a fantastic battle with the man behind him in the number one car. James Calado, the Ferrari World Endurance Championship factory driver. He's here this weekend, first time out, joining Clearwater Racing, and first time in a GT3 car. Very, very quick. There was a fantastic battle between the two stars. Of course, two of the oldest teams in GT Asia, Craft Bamboo Racing and Clearwater Racing, going head to head in the end. 2/100ths of a second separated them in qualifying. That's how close it was, and they smashed the lap record, which was set last year by Andrea Caldarelli. Caldarelli, third fastest, driving the Triple F racing team by ACM McLaren 650S GT3, one of three cars in that team, joined of course by former co-teammates Max Weiser and Young Zin. The race start will be controlled by Richard Lyons. Now, last year we had an incident where Richard Lyons was controlling the field and they forced them to start three times. In the end, Lyons slowed the field down so much that everyone got the jump on him, so I'm pretty sure he's going to pull that out of the memory bank and ensure that doesn't happen this time round. The yellow car there, Darrell O'Young, that's the third row. Unfortunately, as I say, we had the incident with Adelie Fong and Sean Fu in the Caldarelli car that is starting on the second row. They made contact during qualifying. A lot of damage to the front of the Bentley. I'll explain that later as they get into formation to start the race. Coming out of the final of the 18 turns, anti-clockwise rotation here, beg your pardon, the second to last corner. Control line now, Richard Lyons can go when he's ready. The car's in line, stewards have given the green light. The field is away, no, in fact, yes they are, beg your pardon. The field is away, down to turn one. Now, this could be fairly dicey. It's a very slow corner into turn one. Lyons through, Calado through, and that was Caldarelli into position number three. Looks like Darrell O'Young has taken the position away there into position number four. Just slipped upside the inside of Duncan Tappy, who's driving the Bentley. You can see the white car on the left of screen there. So it's a drag race now between Calado and Richard Lyons down to turn one. Michelin tyres this year, a bit different to what they've had in the past, so a lot of the teams are getting used to that. That's using all of the circuit and more. That's probably a little bit too dramatic. They use plenty of this Formula One designed circuit. Now it's another drag race between the V12 Aston, yellow flag. Somebody may have a drama off the start. No, that's looks like Richard Wee and Craig Baird. There's more drama. That's the race leader. Has fallen back coming through the twisty part of the circuit. And he's going to lose position now to Duncan Tappy. So Richard Lyons has got to be a little bit mindful he doesn't get too caught up this early in the race. He doesn't want to take the edge off his Michelin tyres. He knows he's got the pace. He doesn't want to get caught up in incidents battling for position, as similar sort of scenarios just happened to Darrell O'Young. That's Caldarelli in number 5 car, the Triple F racing team by ACM McLaren 650S GT3. 3 of those cars. Unfortunately, that's the Gulf Racing JP GT3R Porsche. That looks like it's had drama. That might have been the reason for the yellow flag. Max Weiser, who's the teammate to Caldarelli in the number 9 car that he shares with the Chinese driver Young Zin. So up front, Caldarelli, who started from pole here last year and led the field to the compulsory pit stop, has done a great job making the start and taking advantage of that battle a little bit further back with Collado and Richard Lyons. Now Lyons is further back. He knows he has the pace, but what he's got to be mindful of is not getting too caught up with the other cars as we go through the first stanza of this race to the compulsory pit stop. Every team must stop for a minimum 85 seconds from the time they start to the control line in pit lane to the end when they exit pit lane. So 85-second minimum stop. And that window will open at the 25-minute mark and close at the 35-minute mark. So you'll see some of the drivers come in early, other drivers come in late. They can affect a tyre change. They have enough time to do that. Whether they do or not will depend on the condition of the tyres as they run through this first stanza of the race. Now, you can see the performance differential there between the twin-turbo 3.8 litre McLaren and the normally aspirated 4.5 litre V8 of second-placed James Collado, especially out of the slower corners. The McLarens were very concerned with their performance out of the slower corners. They felt they were losing quite a bit. Dropped at the end in top speed, and you can see that quite graphically there. But Caldarelli knows what he's doing around here. Very experienced campaigner in GT cars and, of course, open wheel cars. One of the stars in his formative years. Still a very competitive driver in Japan, and he knew how to close the door. Collado, of course, a World Endurance Championship driver in a Ferrari GTE. He knows what he's doing, and again, he's been very quick. So this is working somewhat into the hands of the Triple F team, because they didn't expect they were going to have quite the amount of success early in the race. So for Caldarelli to pull a second row start was an effort in itself, but he's certainly been very quick through the opening part of this race. Still in position number 3, Duncan Tappy, and you can see the light blue Interrush Aston Martin of Richard Lyons immediately behind him. So he's starting to mount a recovery. Last year, as I say, Caldarelli led to the pit stop, but the team that surprised everybody on their debut, a little bit further back in the field, currently shown in position number 8, is the Anthony Liu Davide Rizzo BBT Ferrari 458. Bright red and yellow stripes. They turned up as rookies last year, qualified quite well, but ultimately won both 60-minute races, surprising the established teams who didn't quite know where they'd come from, but certainly supported the fact that the Ferrari was the car to have last year. And of course, that led through to the championship victory for Mok Weng's son at the end of the year. His third win of his 6 seasons in GT Asia, and makes him the most successful driver in the GT Asia series. Now here's a great result. That is the Adderley Fong and Kitasawa Bentley that has recovered from contact during qualifying. The team actually effected an engine change in the couple of hours since qualifying. Contact between the car that's on left of screen here that's leading and is under more pressure from James Collado, but again Caldarelli's driving a very wide car. Sean Fu, Caldarelli's teammate, as he moves him across the circuit and onto the grass. I'm not sure the officials might have something to say about that, but he knows that in a straight line he cannot win a drag race against this Ferrari. So the McLaren and the Bentley made contact. It was mostly superficial, but the unfortunate part was the car injected some carbon fibre into the engine trumpet. So as a fail-safe, the Absolute Racing team thought they'd changed the engine. They've pulled it out in the stop, and they've got the car back out on circuit. Unfortunately, they just missed the start of the race. So they're a couple of laps down on the leaders, but fortunately they're actually in the race. They will score points, and depending on how they finish, they will be competitors in this championship. One of 3 cars in the Bentley Absolute Racing team. Collado now in front, Caldarelli behind doing everything he can, but he knows he has a deficit of about 6 to 7 tenths of a second each lap from the Ferrari, due to the way the Ferrari can get its power down coming out of the slower corners. Of course, the Aston Martin is very similar with its naturally aspirated engine in getting its power down. The 4-litre twin-turbo Bentley, another car that very quick in a straight line and very good with turbo lag, something that many people from the past will remember. Certainly the early formative years of turbo-powered cars, there was some level of lag, but you talk to the modern-day GT3 engineers and the drivers, and they don't signal any sign of that with the modern cars. However, the performance characteristics and the way the engine makes its power is different, and that's highlighted, as you saw, by some of the restrictions that the McLaren and the Bentley carry here with respect to the way they perform. Every year, of course, the Blancpain Series, which is essentially the major body for GT3 competition worldwide, issue a balance of performance. And in that balance of performance, they set weights, they set turbo boosts, they set all of those things. There's been some discussion about the way that works this weekend. Some teams feel that perhaps they've been dealt a bit of an unfair hand, but no doubt that will sort itself out as the season progresses. So it's Collado leading. Not a huge lead at the moment. They might have expected that they'd be battling the car that's now in third position, Richard Lyons. So it's just under a second to Caldarelli, 2:08.8 last time around. Lyons, as he proved during practice on Thursday, practice on Friday, and in qualifying this morning, fastest on circuit, 2:08.276. Caldarelli, very close to the pace that he'd been running through practice. It's only a 2:10.2. So he's holding position. He's going to make it very difficult for Richard Lyons to get past. But of course, they're building some pretty serious data. New team into the championship this year. He drove an Aston Martin last year, sat on pole, Caldarelli, and now it's a new team with the McLaren 650S. Fourth position, Duncan Tappy still, 2:09 last time around. Max Weiser doing a fantastic job in the second of the Triple F racing team. Aston Martin's now up to position number 5. And Jean-Carl Vernet, the Frenchman, who impressed with his performance at Shanghai last year on his debut in the GT Asia Series, currently holding down position number 6 in the J-Fly Racing Bentley Continental. Nice work by Feroz Fauzi, another driver with Formula One experience, former F1 test driver. The Malaysian is driving the OD Racing Lamborghini Gallardo of Zen Lo. They were very quick at various stages during practice. Fauzi managed to work his way into the top 3, and that was a great result for the team. You'd see big smiles right around the pit garage, because we talk about being inside the top 5. During one stage of qualifying, the top 10 cars were classified by less than a second, and that's pretty close in any terms, much less on a circuit of this length. 5.615 kilometres, 2-minute lap, and there was just over a second covering the field. That's before Collado went out and set a fairly impressive lap time, and it was immediately followed by Richard Lyons doing much the same. So Collado in front. Of course, this is 2 drivers in many of these cars. Only Jerry Wang in the GTM Audi, who's currently in position 11, leading the GTM class, is driving alone. Every other team has effectively become a Pro-Am combination, with professional drivers like Collado, Lyons, Tappy, Jean-Carl Vernet, Vidantonio Luzzi, another one ex-Formula One driver who's contested 2 Formula One Grand Prix here. Now there's last year's winner, the red and yellow car we were talking about. That is Davide Rizzo behind the wheel, the Italian, holding down position number 8. So a lot of the teams have enlisted professional drivers out of the World Endurance Championship, XF1 drivers, certainly GT3 international drivers, GTE in James Collado's case, and they, as a result, have also stepped up. You see drivers like Weng Sun, Frank Yu have improved almost 2 seconds a lap over their performance here last year, so they're very happy with the way things are going, and their pace is essentially going to dictate the way this race works out, because if you talk about there being a couple of 100ths between the number 1 Clearwater car on screen and the number 88 Interrush Aston Martin, there's not going to be much separating the 2 teams coming into the pits. Once they effect their 85-second stop, provided they don't lose any time during the stop and they rejoin, then the battle comes down to the performance and the pace of Frank Yu and the performance and pace of the 3-time champion, the man who's won 20 of his 50 races in GT Asia Series, Mok Weng Sun. What will happen then? Well, it's interesting. During practice, there was only 2 or 3 tenths separating them. During the second qualifying session for race 2 tomorrow, the advantage was actually back to Mok. He set a pole time of 2:10.6. Frank Yu, 2:10.8. So there's very little in it. Now you can see that very visible difference in performance in a straight line between the McLaren and the Aston Martin, as Richard Lyons does what he can to try and get up the inside. But he knows too that Caldarelli's no deal. He watched things unfold in front of him as Collado tried to get past the Italian. He knows it's going to be difficult, so he has to pick his place. Of course, Caldarelli won't make contact. He doesn't need that for his performance in this race, but he will make life very, very difficult for the Ulsterman. Now there's Ferris Fawzi, a little bit of contact on the car in front of him. That's Jean-Carl Vernet in the number 7 J-Fly Racing Bentley. So Fawzi has closed in. 2:07.7 now for Collado, 2.3 seconds the lead into lap number 6. 2:08.4 for both Caldarelli and Richard Lyons, and Duncan Tappy still doing a great job with a 2:08.8. Visors drop back into the low 210s, and both Fawzi and Vernet also on the 2:09. So too Davide Rizzo, and Vidantonio Luzzi has moved up to position number 9 in the McLaren he shares with former Clearwater Racing driver Hiroshi Hamaguchi. Last year Hamaguchi and his then teammate McLaren factory favourite Rob Bell finished second in both races behind the Rizzo and Anthony Liu combination. I'm not going to bring up the incident that left them to finish second in race 2. I'm sure Hiroshi will appreciate that we just leave the commentator's curse as it is and not bring up things that have happened in the past. Certainly he had a good year last year, went into the the penultimate round of the championship at Shanghai, very much in the championship, but an unfortunate incident during qualifying saw the then McLaren MP412C make very heavy contact with the wall. I in fact watched it happen in front of me. I was most surprised that he was actually able to pop the door and walk away from the car. Such is the strength of the modern day GT3 car, and certainly the McLaren kept Hiroshi Hamaguchi safe. Unfortunately for them, they were unable to continue with the car. It has since been rebuilt. They did carry on at Shanghai with the help of the Taiwanese AAI Restrada team, but the performance wasn't the same. They were out of the championship and effectively missed the last round at Macau, and that left this car, the number 1 Ferrari 458 of Clearwater Racing, with Mok Weng Sun behind the wheel to take the battle to Anthony Liu. Liu won that battle. He won on his debut at Macau. Very impressive. Here he is on screen in the red and yellow car. But unfortunately, despite that victory, his 4th of the year, very impressive run by them on debut, he was unable to claim the championship in his rookie year, and the win went to the car on screen, to Mok Weng Sun. 20th win. Sorry, he didn't win. That wasn't his 20th win. That came earlier at Shanghai. His 3rd championship, and the Clearwater Racing team's 3rd championship. So it's Collado. Caldarelli still shown in position number 2, but I think that certainly is going to change very soon, and Richard Lyons will be doing everything he can to ensure that that is the situation. We did mention earlier in the program that Michelin was new to GT Asia this year, certainly not new to GT competition, and certainly not new to the Asian region. Regular front runners and victors in the annual Malaysia Merdeka 12-hour race, the Sepang 12-hour race. So they're well versed at how these tyres work. In fact, very similar compound to some of the other competing classes here this weekend. So they have good data, but these teams, of course, it is new to many of them. So they will be earning their dollars in the engineering department this weekend as they gain the all-important valuable data to help prepare the cars, not just for the second race, but for the rest of the season. Speaking of the 2015 GT Asia Series, 11 rounds. We kick off here at Korea, first round of the championship, as we did 12 months ago, then on to Okayama in Japan in late June, Fuji 3 weeks later in mid-July, and September, Sepang will see the first 3-hour race in the 6 seasons of the GT Asia Series, so we're all looking forward to that. Then it's on to the Buriram International Circuit in Thailand for the series' first ever run over there, and that will complete the major part of the championship, and then it's a non-championship race at Macau. You see the number 1 car of Collado just going past Kitasawa, the man who drove that car last year and assisted Mok Weng Sun to his 3rd championship. Frustration for Sawa, but he admitted that he's enjoyed the challenge of driving with the Absolute Racing team, one of the most professional teams like Clearwater and Craft Bamboo Racing in the Asian region. And he said it's a little bit different driving this over the Ferrari he's driven in the past, but of course the Japanese driver is considered one of the best GT drivers in the Asian region, and it hasn't taken him too long to adapt to the car. A bit like the Triple F racing team with the new McLarens, there is some work to be done on development with the Bentley. Of course, it's a proven race winner now in Europe. It has been very successful since its debut at Shanghai last year, very competitive too at Macau, and the Absolute team will be very quick to get on top of the performance of the car here, much like the Triple F racing team with Andrea Caldarelli and the boys in the McLarens. So it's Collado, 2:08.2 last time round. Caldarelli still holding down position 2. He's got lights flashing to Kitasawa to let him know he's coming. He's going to need every bit of help he can get from his rivals. I'm not sure how many of them are going to be accommodating, but he will want to use every bit of track to get the maximum speed out of that car. He commented during practice to me that he was driving it at 10 tenths. It was about all that he could get out of it, and he was still 6 tenths down on the Aston. But a lot of that, as he admitted himself, will come down to the development of the car across the season. A big effort by the Triple F racing team, by ACM, and also the McLaren factory. There's a lot of effort gone into these 3 cars, much like the Bentleys and, of course, the Ferraris and the Aston Martin teams. A lot of factory support to get these cars up to speed and winning this championship. Talk to Frank Yu, you talk to Mok Weng Sun, and they admit that this year is tougher. Of course, most years, as seasons progress, the championships get tougher, but there's a lot more input from factory teams and factory drivers to join the series this year, which is a real tick in the box for the GT Asia series as it continues to develop. And what that's done is that has raised the bar and the level to the point where, as Matt Griffin, who drives for Clearwater Racing, he'll join Richard Wee a bit later in the year. He admitted last year that it's really raised the bar to a point where there's not much margin to relax anymore. You've really got to push and push hard. And with 60-minute races, with the exception of the Sepang round this year, you have to make sure that you're pushing as much as you can to retain that position in the field. One slip, and that can be multiple positions. As we saw during qualifying, second covering 10 cars in the field is not much of a margin for error. So it's Collado. And you see Caldarelli on screen in the number 5 McLaren. Immediately behind him is the pace setter through most of this weekend, Richard Lyons. He may just be conserving to ensure that tyre life is extended to a point where he can attack later in the race. He's seen that Caldarelli can be difficult to get past, and Caldarelli's entitled to a point to protect his ground. He's not doing anything untoward. Very wide circuit, clearly an F1 circuit. You'd tend to suggest that there's plenty of room. You can see the width of the circuit there on the back straight on the run down to turn 3. You'd expect that there were plenty of overtaking opportunities, but when you talk to the professional drivers, they admit just what the gentleman drivers will tell you, and that it feels very claustrophobic in amongst the concrete walls. There's not a lot of margin for error. There are some areas, as you can see there as they run through turn 3, the runoff is quite extensive, but the opportunities to overtake are quite few if the performance characteristics of the cars are similar. Collado, 2:08.1 last time. Caldarelli, 3.9 seconds now behind, 2:08.4. So he's managing to maintain that pace. Lyons is still quicker, but he cannot do much about the car in front of him. Now Max Weiser holding down position number 5 in the second Triple F car. Immediately behind him, Jean-Carl Vernet, and you can see Ferris Fauzi and Davide Rizzo behind them. So there's not much in difference on track between those cars. In fact, there's between Visa and Rizzo's covered by 4 seconds. So that's not a bad pace. Still turning laps in the low 210s, the high 209s. Jerry Wang, we're talking about the GTM class. Not the depth to it at the first round this year as there has been in past seasons. Some of the GTM drivers like Jackie Jung, 2-time champion, 2012-2014 GTM class champion, have progressed through to the GT3 class. We will see a number of the GTM competitors join the series from the next round at Okayama. There's been a bit of a date clash with one of the teams that made their presence felt here 12 months ago, the Taiwan Top Speed Racing team of George Chu. They're away racing in Taiwan this weekend, so we will see them a little bit later in the season. As Collado clocks up lap number 10. His advantage now over Caldarelli just on 5 seconds, 2:07.8 last time round for Collado. So he's still pushing very, very hard. He wants to give Mok Weng Sun as great an advantage as he can, because currently the advantage that Weng Sun will hold over Frank Yu after the stop, all things being equal, and we retain the current margins, that will hand Weng Sun a 6-second advantage over his long-time rival after the compulsory stop if things remain the same as they are. 37 minutes down in this opening race, the first of 11 for the 2015 GT Asia Series, and already it's shaping up to be an interesting season. Probably a little surprised that the gap between Collado and probably Anthony Liu a little bit further back in the field, Davide Rizzo, to 22.5 seconds. Okay, one is a professional driver. Davide Rizzo is he's no slouch. Of course, as we say, he won here last year, but his profession isn't a professional racing driver. He doesn't do this every weekend, despite the fact his pace is pretty good, and he qualified just over a second off Collado's pace. He was probably caught up a little bit in that run through the first few corners, which certainly dropped Richard Lyons back. Lyons held the advantage there for a little bit, and unfortunately for them, Collado included, they lost a little bit of ground. That enabled Caldarelli to get the jump and push out ahead. So we've seen it change before position. Davide Rizzo has moved through on Feroz Fauzi a little bit further back. Luzzi now is closing in on that battle. 2:10.0 for him versus Caldarelli's 2:08.8. Of course, Andrea Caldarelli is Antonio Luzzi's brother-in-law, so they have a strong bond, and they have been working together with this team to build it into a powerhouse in the Asian region. They certainly will achieve that over the course of the 2:07.9 last time round for James Collado. It looks like he's come up on the back of Jerry Wang there in the GTM class. He is the GTM class leader currently. The second of the Gulf Racing JP Porsches. The 991 Cup car is second in class. That, of course, is Keiichi Mori and Hisashi Kuni. They're a little bit further back in the field. They have been taken by the race leader already, so we will be due to see pit stops any time after, well, I think the pit stop window will open next time around. So Collado's crossed the start-finish line. 35 minutes 30 down, 24 minutes 30 down in this race, 35 minutes to go. So the window will open. You see the two Bentleys on screen, the third one a little bit further back. It's Duncan Tappy, who will turn the car over to car owner Jackie Jung, GTM class champion, having his first run. That is the newest of the three Absolute Racing Bentleys. Unfortunately for Jackie, he hasn't managed to turn as many laps as he would have liked this weekend. You can see how quick Collado's driving that car. It's still moving around just a little bit, so he's got a margin for error. Very experienced campaigner. He said there's not really a lot of difference now between the GTE Ferrari 458 and the GT3 Ferrari 458. He said it's taken me a little bit of time to dial in. Oh, that's a move by Richard Lyons. You can see just at the back there on Caldarelli. He's finally made his way through. He's now nearly 6.5 seconds down on James Collado. That's not where he wanted to be coming into pit lane to hand over to Frank Yu. He wants to close that gap down. Now, one wonders whether that might be the opportunity perhaps for Collado to pit. He would probably much prefer Lyons to be the first one into pit lane. Yes, of course, he's carried on, because if he pits too early and Richard Lyons continues to circulate whilst Mok Weng Sun's in the car, that's up to 3 seconds a lap quicker, and that advantage would disappear very, very quickly. So now the game of strategy starts. They have just 9 more minutes to make their compulsory pit stop, 2-minute laps. So they've got 3 or 4 laps to work it out. They have to make sure they effect their pit stop within the 85 seconds so they don't lose any more time. But now it is game on again. 7 seconds. These two teams have been the ones to be most dominant through the course of this weekend. It was Richard Lyons almost from the get-go in practice that was on top of the timetables. He admitted he was a little surprised to finish the first unofficial practice session on Thursday near the top of the times, and he ended the day well clear. He said, never driven around here before. I haven't driven the Aston for some time, and there's the first of the pit stops. Jerry Wang, the one driver in the field that won't be making a driver change. He still has to stop for the same amount of time, minimum 85 seconds from the pit in line to the pit exit line. They must make sure they don't cross that line prior to 85 seconds. We saw a number of teams do that last year, some by tenths of a second, because it is controlled by officials. They do have the timers to know how long they are in pit lane. I know teams did protest that perhaps stopwatches weren't quite as accurate as they should be, but at the end of the day, you have to ensure that whilst you're close to that margin, you don't want to be losing wholesale seconds. You certainly don't want to exit pit lane before your compulsory time is up, because you will receive a drive-through penalty, and at a circuit like this, that can mean wholesale positions on track, and teams are going to try their best this year, I'm sure, to make certain that their teams aren't making that error, because all the hard work done on track can be brought undone very quickly with a single drive-through penalty and just trying to shave half a second off a pit stop. So Collado is going to go around again, continue onto the front straight out at turn 18. It should be called kink 18 rather than turn 18. So Collado, what's the pace of Richard Lyons now? He's had a lap clear of the McLaren. 2:07.8 still for Collado, 2:08.4. So he's got fresh air, but he's still lost 0.6 of a second doing the mathematics to James Collado in front. Caldarelli's still circulating in the 2:08s, 2:08.9. He's lost a second now to Richard Liu. Duncan Tappy, 2:09.2. You can see him in the background there in the white Bentley, the car he shares with Tiger Jackie Young. Max Weiser now's 25 seconds back. He has got Jean-Carl Vernet breathing down his neck. He's only 7/10 back, and they're both matched on pace with low 2:10s last time round. Davide Rizzo's in a bit of a watching brief. He's right behind those guys, 2:09.4. Hamaguchi with Vitantonio Luzzi at the wheel is up to position number 8, and unfortunately for Ferris Fauzi in the car he shares with Zen Low, he's dropping back now, 2:12 last time round, so he might have a little bit of work to do on setup of the car ahead of race 2 tomorrow afternoon. So the bulk of this series, with the exception of the Sepang round, now we can hear more cars coming down pit lane, with the exception of the Sepang 3-hour race, 60-minute race durations. So we have 11 rounds, 10 of those will be 60-minute race duration, and the 1 3-hour race at Sepang later in the season. New livery 2 on the number 1 car. It's just not the number 1 on the door. A lot of work goes into the Clearwater Racing Ferraris to make them stand out, and one would argue that they're 2 of the most visible Ferrari 458 GT3s in the world. It's a driver change there for Kiichi Mori and Hisashi Kuni. They take their compulsory stop. You also see Daryl O'Young and Jonathan Venter in pit lane. I've missed that. We haven't seen much of them for a reason. They seem to have an issue. Craig Baird and Richard Wee too are shown as retirements. Now that would be as a result of that incident we saw in the hustle in through turns 4, 5 and 6. We saw one car just peeling off to the side of the circuit in the distance. That was clearly the Craig Baird Ferrari. So frustration for them. 2:08.14, 2:08.03 last time round. So Collado continues to punch out quick laps. He's now into the 8s, only just. So no advantage there for Richard Lyons. Still Andrea Caldarelli hangs on. He will hand over to Sean Fu, as we mentioned earlier, was unfortunately tagged by Adderley Fong in the number 8 Bentley Continental of Absolute Racing during qualifying. Unfortunately, the team had to make an engine change, not because there was anything major wrong with the engine, but they had induced some carbon fibre shards in through the airbox. And they're a bit concerned about what potential that may have had for damage. So rather than try and pull it down and clean it, they made an engine change, and unfortunately they had the front out of the car with 10 minutes to go. But they started the race, and Kitasawa circulating. Unfortunately, he's 2 laps down on the field. They managed to get the car fired and started, and they will take their place tomorrow on the grid. Of Of course, prior to the drama, Adderley Fong had qualified the car on the front row in position number 2, immediately behind Jonathan Venter, and they will be keen to make up for whatever drama has fallen to them. They may have been involved too in that opening lap drama. As Colardo's heading towards the pit lane entry. There are 28 minutes left in this race. If he doesn't pit this lap, he'll certainly pit the following lap. Does he come down pit lane? No. Another lap round. So the pro drivers can stay in the car as long as they need to, provided they pit inside the window. Predictably, Richard Lyons 2 has carried on. 2:07.7 for Collado as he just comes up behind. I would assume that's Kitasawa that he is about to take for position. No, that's not. It's one of the other 2 cars. Could be Jackie Young rejoining. No, Duncan Tappy still should appear at the top of the screen there in position number 4. He will pit and hand over to Jackie Young. No, it is in fact the Jackie Young car, so they have made their stop. The JV Global car of the 2014 GTM class champion. Caldarelli still circulating strongly, 2:08.7 last time round. 10 seconds down on race leader James Collado, who's still punching out some quick laps, but I would just about pin money on the fact that he will be into pit lane at the end of this lap. 26 minutes 49 to go. The window will close with 25 minutes to go. He's got 85 seconds. Time to hand over to the reigning champion. You see that is Yakimizo handing over to Todd Pitty, the Thai driver, who first appeared last year at the Japanese rounds, driving a Porsche GT3R at that stage with Vuticorn. They were very quick at various stages, certainly in the rain. Vuticorn was quite impressive. But Pitty's decided that he will move across from the Thailand Super Series this year, has bought a new Ferrari 458, and Dutch driver Carlo van Dam, who's had a lot of experience in the Asian region. He's racing the Nürburgring 24-hour race this weekend. They will share the driving duties for much of the season. And that's the number 7 car with Jean-Carl Vernet in. Car he shares with Jeffrey Lee, of course the car owner. The J-Fly racing car is just looking at the car exiting pit lane will be Adderley Fong, now back behind the wheel of the number 8 Bentley Continental that he shares with Kitasawa, Sawa having started a lap down. Now this is Caldarelli, by the look of it, coming up on the back of Jackie Young. He's now fired into pit lane. Jackie's turning some of his first laps of the weekend. A couple of teething problems with the car during practice, limited his number of laps. He was really looking forward to yesterday afternoon's co-drivers or AM drivers session. It was a dedicated session for the car owners, the AM drivers. And unfortunately, just prior to the session, the rain started to fall, and that all but ruined the session for a lot of those teams. Many of them ventured out, ran the Michelin wet weather tyre for the first time, and just turned some laps to get the feel of the car, but there really wasn't a lot they could take away from that, and Jackie was pretty disappointed. So really, this is his first serious run in his new Bentley Continental. You watch him progress as the season goes on. Very happy with Duncan Tappy now. That's the Richard Wee and Craig Baird car. It seemed to have come out of the corner where there had been contact with some what appeared to be damage on one of the wheels. It was a bit hard to recall exactly which side, but that has impacted, unfortunately, their opening round. Richard Wee, the reigning Rookie of the Year and 2-time winner in the GT Asia Series in 2014. Young Zin circulates now in the number 9 Triple F Racing McLaren, as that is Mockweng's son leaving pit lane. So Collado has pulled in. You would imagine Richard Lyons has pulled in. They have to do it in their allocated time. Shows too, Caldarelli, we saw him coming in. Lutzi's in position number 4, but he has also come in. Young's in, car on screen, the number 9 Triple F Racing team by ACM McLaren 650S GT3. Was very quick towards the end of the year last year. The Chinese driver in the NB team, Aston Martin, has had 6 months off, seriously working, a big car buff, owns a few sports cars, enjoys driving sports cars, but unfortunately he's been out of the seat for 6 months, and that will show a little bit with his pace, as it does with many of the gentleman drivers. They just don't do it often enough. takes them a little bit of time to get back up to speed, but we should see as the season progresses that Young's In will be pretty quick as the year goes on. Now, this is interesting. It was about 7 or 8 seconds, the gap between Collado and Richard Lyons coming into pit lane, but that's pretty visibly less than that. If you look at it, we will get an indication the first time round. So Mok Weng Sun has the thundering V12 Aston Martin of long-time rival Frank Yu immediately behind. Frank's got the lights going. I hadn't seen whether or not during the pit stop there has been tyre changes, but nobody's reporting any issue with tyre life with the new Michelin S9. We don't expect that too many of the teams will make a choice to change. There hasn't been a big drop-off. Now already, Mok Weng Sun's having dramas because that's Frank Yu through to the lead already within the lap. So Frank Yu has taken back the position that Richard Lyons started this weekend with at the top of the timetables. Now, I hope there's no dramas with the number 1 car, but certainly he was going a lot slower than you would expect. This is the GTM class car, the number 20 car of Kiichi Mori and Hisashi Kuni. Well, it doesn't look like, as we go back to shots of Mok Weng Sun, doesn't look like he's suffering any dramas. But certainly that has handed the lead straight across to Frank Yu. And the Hong Kong-based driver, the Craft Bamboo team boss, will be very happy with this, but he knows too that the man that he's been battling over the last 5 seasons in GT Asia is no slouch. If there has been an issue, whether there's been a slight hiccup with a shift, whether there's an electrical issue or something's cut out and that's forced him to lose all that advantage he took out of pit lane, it certainly doesn't look like he's got a problem now as he closes into the rear of the 88 Interrush Aston Martin. So now this is where the race will be. This certainly makes things an awful lot more interesting. We see 5:10, so it was half a second crossing the line. That was pretty visible last time round. As we see a drag race between the 6-litre V12 Aston Martin and the 4.5-litre Ferrari 458. He's not going to get past Frank Yu like that. Frank can be very wide if he needs to, but there will certainly be lots to talk about after this one, because that was a strange situation to see. The number 1 car is showing absolutely no signs now, as you see how bumpy it is into turn 4. No signs of the drama that seemed to have cost him 5 or 6 seconds last time around, because that was coming out of pit lane. We don't have a good indication as to just how much time he lost as the lap times display on screen. Anthony Liu's now in position number 3, and see him on screen there. He is 22 seconds further back. The man who won here last year is not out of this equation, but the guys in front of him may only be about a second a lap slower. We have 20 minutes to go. There might be another maybe 10 or 12 laps. Second a lap, 10 or 12 seconds perhaps. That's not going to be enough to now allow Anthony Liu back for the three-peat. Now, a little bit of pace drop-off again there too by Weng Sun. That's quite surprising. Whether there's a drama through that part of the circuit for some reason. He's just dropped off a little bit there, where he's closed right up on the long straights here at Korea International onto the back of the 88 Aston Martin. We'll see what comes from here. Might be another issue, whether there's been some drama with the tyre, whether any contact, because both those cars were involved in a battle for position on the opening lap. Whether that has had an effect perhaps on some aero and the characteristics of the Ferrari just in certain corners might be enough to lose him that advantage over his Aston Martin rival. But this is certainly shaping up to what we expect are going to be the two teams to battle for the 2015 championship, as Weng Sun closes right up behind Frank Yu again into turn 1. Very technical circuit. We say technical because there's a lot of change of directions. There's a couple of long straights, a couple of very fast sweeping corners, which is where the pro drivers admit they have the advantage over the amateur drivers because they're more committed. I reckon it's a very, very tough circuit to drive very quickly. And James Collado mentioned that it took him a few laps to come to grips with the very fast section of the circuit through turns 7 and 8, which is around where the two GT Asia rivals are now. Coming down to turn number 4. And there's also through the final section of the race through through the lap rather, turns 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Very short, sharp runs. Technical data from Rick Kemp, who's one of the lead engineers on the Triple F Racing McLaren team, tells me that there are only 20 gear shifts per lap, which is quite surprising over a 2-minute lap. 18 corners, 5.61 kilometres. There's now, that's Young's in on screen, whether that is Hiroshi Hamaguchi immediately ahead of him or Sean Fu. In fact, it's Sean Fu still holding down position number 4. So the two Chinese drivers who started the NB team in 2 Aston Martins here 12 months ago have moved across to the new Triple F Racing team. They've brought with them Hiroshi Hamaguchi, who drove a McLaren through last season. He was part of the Clearwater Racing team, the team of Mok Weng Sun, who's in position number 2 there on screen. Weng Sun and Hamaguchi drove together in the 2013 season. Only 2 wins for Mok that year. He'd won 4 in the 3 seasons prior and 4 last year. So very successful driver in this championship, but McLaren perhaps didn't suit his taste as much. He's committed to the Ferrari mark. In fact, he said to me the other day that the new 488 Ferrari is on order for the Clearwater Racing team. So they've made their commitment for the 2016 season, and they'll look forward to trying to get that car later this year to do some testing ahead of the championship. But of course, this is just the first round of the 2015 GT Asia Series, so the action is only just beginning. The battle wages on still. Now Weng Sun's trying the inside. Frank Yu crosses across to close the door on him. Last year we saw contact between the two drivers at this very circuit, and that forced the number 1 car. Then it was the number 3 Ferrari 458 of Kitasawa and Weng Sun. It was Weng Sun that was behind the wheel at the time into retirement. After the race there was some discussion about whether or not Frank might have dived down the inside and left his run a little bit too late, but Frank was very apologetic. Weng Sun admitted that in all the years they'd raced together, they'd never previously made contact. They shook hands on it, everything was fine, and they carried on as the mates they've always been throughout their journey in the GT Asia Series, which again is another hallmark of this championship. Yes, it's serious, but these guys are also mates at the end of the day, and it makes the championship an awful lot more interesting. How that plays out this year, now that they've all got professional drivers, factory support from a technical perspective, and all those things on the line, maybe that will change, but certainly over the last few years it has been a fantastic series to be a part of. Now Zen Low looking at the inside, that may perhaps have been Hiroshi Hamaguchi. Hamaguchi's gone around the outside of Low, the Malaysian driver, making his debut in the GT Asia Series this year. They're battling over positions number 6 and 7. Jackie Young's now down to position number 8, and he will have Jeffrey Lee behind him in the not too distant future. In fact, that should have been Jeffrey closing in behind him. Now, Jerry Wang has just been quietly working away on the Absolute Racing Audi R8 LMS car. It's the GTM class leader. He's in position number 10. And by virtue of some of the attrition with other cars in the field, Adderley Fong is now shown in position number 11. So they will get some valuable data out of today. They'll be very disappointed they've had to effect the engine change. It doesn't appear that there has been anything much more than superficial damage to the car, certainly no structural damage, so they will be able to press on over the course of the weekend. Now, let's look at the pace. We were talking 207s, 208s in the opening stanza with the pro drivers. As again, Weng Sun looks at the outside run on Frank Yu, and he's not going to get it. There'll be a drag race again, and already we've seen the drag race go to the Vantage in a straight line. Look at it there. There's not much in it. In fact, the 458 Ferrari's managed to get a little bit better power down coming out of the corner. He's pulled alongside, but Frank breaks deep. Weng Sun's got his work cut out for him if he's going to win this one, but that's just what you want to see. Nice work from these two teams as they progress through. See a new livery. We're used to the Hulk design on both of the Craft Bamboo Racing Aston Martins this year. Of course, two distinctly different colour schemes, two different sponsors. The VLT yellow car of Darryl O'Young and Jonathan Venter, who have pole position for race 2 tomorrow. We'll see them back. Unfortunately, retirements in this race, and the Interrush light blue car of Frank Yu and Richard Lyons, who will join him for the entire season. We saw last year Stefan Mucker was a big part of Frank Yu's championship challenge, and Mucker is committed to his World Endurance Championship program this year. So Richard Lyons has signed on with a full year with the Craft Bamboo Racing team. So watch for them to be real contenders through the year. And despite all the factory input, new teams, impressive driver lineups and professionals added to the GT Asia series over the years, it's still the Clearwater Racing team and the Craft Bamboo team that are battling at the front of the field, and that's just what we like to see. And certainly the fans of the GT Asia series are very happy to see their founding fathers, essentially the teams that have been big players in this championship over recent years, continuing to run at the front of the field. So 2:12s for them last time round, 2:08s for their lead drivers. So Frank Yu's done a 2:12.8. Weng Sun, who's caught up obviously with the big V12 Vantage in front of him, 2:13.0. Behind them, Anthony Liu's just done a 2:10.0. The interesting point is, there he is at the top of the screen. There is 12 minutes left to go in this race. This battle that these two are having at the front of the field is slowing them down to the tune of 3 seconds a lap. We thought it might only be a second a lap. But Anthony Liu is the charger. He is now only 10 seconds behind this battle for the lead. These guys are going to have to start listening to their engineers and work out whether or not they want to be battling over second or third, or whether they want to be battling later in this race for the victory. They almost need to settle into a qualifying run and just focus on the job at hand and the approaching Anthony Liu immediately behind them. Certainly 3 seconds a lap is going to get rid of that deficit inside of 3 laps, and with 12 minutes to go, we still have something like 6 laps left in this race. If they cross the line and the clock's still ticking, 59 minutes and so many seconds, it will be another lap. So it is down to the lap they cross after the 60 minutes is completed. And we see Yang Zin, who is holding down position number 4. He's a good 30 seconds back from Anthony Liu in the number 37 BBT red and yellow Ferrari 458, but that is a good start to their championship. Sean Fu too, a great job by him to still be hanging on to position number 5, and his teammate Hiroshi Hamaguchi, he's the one on the charge. Now Hamaguchi last time round did a 2:11.3, Sean Fu a 2:18.9. Now you may think that's a little bit on the slow side, but he hasn't done a lot of miles in these cars. He's been out of the seat for the best part of a year since his debut here 12 months ago. He's been taking wholesale time out of his lap times through practice, and has just set his personal best this time round. Yang Zin, 2:14.0. Now he's off the pace that we would expect to see from him in a normal case. So he's 33 seconds back. He's only 17 seconds up from Hiroshi Hamaguchi. Hamaguchi's pulling him in at 3 seconds a lap. So there's still position changes yet to come. I don't expect you'll see Hamaguchi catch the leading trio. But look at that gap now. As they crested the rise just here last time round, Anthony Liu was rear of screen coming through turn number 2. So he has pulled in last time round 4 seconds. It's now 6.3 seconds separating Anthony Liu and Weng Sun in the number 1 Clearwater Racing Ferrari. Now one wonders whether they've had an indication from pit lane that they need to be pressing on. As you see, that is Hiroshi Hamaguchi about to take Sean Fu for position. I just missed the race numbers then to see whether it was the 55 or the 5 that was the leading car of those two. We'll soon see, but you'll expect Hiroshi Hamaguchi will take that position away and soon be out in pursuit of his other teammate, the number 9 car, Yang Zin, the Chinese driver who was on the podium here in race 2 12 months ago. Now Frank Yu has opened up a bit of a lead, 1.4 seconds now it is shown. Anthony Liu, there he is on screen. He's reeled them in, he's 2:09.8 last time around, so there's no lack of pace there. Adderley Fong too, 2:10.3, so he had that contact during qualifying, but he's still maintaining a very, very good pace, so doesn't appear to be too many dramas with that car. It's a pity for them, they are a strong combination, very little separating Kitasawa from Adderley Fong in the number 8 Bentley Continental, very little separating Anthony Liu and Davide Rizzo in the number 37 Ferrari that is ranging up behind these guys. It appears now that Wang Sun is starting to make inroads again into Frank Yu. So Frank may have had a little bit of a moment. It looks like Wang Sun has closed that gap, but you will see very, very soon the number 37 BBT Ferrari has a sniff. This could be their third win from 3 starts. There he is behind. Now, something has happened. There has been some communication from pit lane. 2:11.9 last time round from Frank Yu. 2:11.2 from Wang Sun. 2:10 dead for Anthony Liu. He's now 4 seconds behind Wang Sun. So he hasn't gained too much last time round. There's 8 minutes left in this race. Adderley Fong's immediately ahead of him, running a similar pace. Wang Sun's decided, I've had enough of this. We need to get through on the Aston Martin and get away, because that Ferrari of Anthony Liu is closing us down. I want to be clear of this. So he's closed in for another attack. He might have just let his tyres sit for a couple of laps, get them back into a position to be able to charge. What we mean by that is it allows the tyre. And Frank Yu has just gone a little bit too deep, and that has left the door open for Wang Sun to fire through to the lead. Down at turn 14, and Wang Sun is going to lead across the line, and he'll be wanting to stretch the legs on the number 1 Clearwater Racing Ferrari and get away from not just the Aston Martin but the approaching threat that is the man who won here last time we were here. In fact, won both 60-minute races 12 months ago. Now Frank Yu's firing back at him. He looks like he's in a position to actually take the position back, and he comes up the inside. Is there going to be contact? No, he's got the wrong line. But this is not going to help them, and it's going to do everything to play into Anthony Liu's favour. Now watch the Chinese driver is approaching. He's immediately behind. Now Adderley Fong is just there. You can see him immediately behind the leaders. Now Fong's pace is such that he could drive past them, and he's about to unlap himself from Frank Yu. He has every right to do that. The flags may wave and force him out of position as Anthony Liu comes through, but at the moment his pace is all but matching Liu. Now this could create a bit of a problem. Wang Sun has got the lead back. There is 6.5 minutes left on the clock. He will do everything in his power to keep that advantage to the line, but he knows what Anthony Liu is capable of. He's battled, he and Davide Rizzo, his teammate, door handle to door handle through the 2014 season, and he knows that he has the pace to catch through. The lights are flashing. Fong has moved out of the way. Liu is on the tail of Frank Yu. There's nothing separating them. Last time round, 2:10.4 for Anthony Liu, 2:15.4 for Frank Yu. That's 5 seconds. His advantage is gone. Now it'll be Anthony Liu down into turn 3. He will fire up the inside, no question, off the Aston Martin Vantage. And we're going to watch them as they come into the braking lane. He's not quite got the position there. Frank Yu's driving with everything he has, all these years of experience behind the wheel of that gorgeous Aston Martin. He's going to put into play to do what he can to retain the position. He too knows what Anthony Liu's capable of and the pace of that car. Mok Wang Sun is really firing as much as he can. Now, Liu has cut across to take the position away. He should take position 2 from Frank Yu, and he has. So now it's Ferrari 1, Ferrari 2, Aston Martin 3. The battle will now be over position number 1. Anthony Liu is going to close in on the tail of Wang Sun in the gorgeous chrome Clearwater Racing number 1 car. And Adderley Fong is still thinking about retaking the position back from Frank Yu. This race is really shaping up to be very, very interesting. You see the gap, it's about a second. So the position will be for the lead. Just under 5 minutes to go. We know how quick Anthony Liu and Davide Rizzo can be. We saw them win here on debut last year. 12 months ago, we weren't really sure where these guys had come from. They had a little bit of experience in Porsche Carrera Cup Asia. They had a little bit of experience in the one-make Lamborghini Super Trofeo series, but not a lot of experience in a GT3 car. Had only done a bit of testing, had never raced in a Ferrari 458, but certainly by the end of the opening round of the 2014 season, we knew exactly what they were capable of, as you see him close right in on the tail of Wang Sun. The other thing that we saw that was interesting was the 2 guys in the 37 car battled the car in front. The number 1 car, it was the number 3 last year that Wang Sun shared with Kitasawa. These 2 cars battled all the way to the final round at Macau. In the end, the deficit was 7 points. Anthony Liu won 4 races. Wang Sun won 4 races. This round essentially set up the assault that Davide Rizzo and Anthony Liu, certainly Anthony Liu is the team leader, he took the car through to the final round. It set them up for their assault on the championship last year. So people understand the importance and the value of the opening round. As we see a challenge, it's another drag race. He's got the inside line. Is he going to take it away on the crossover? No. He knows he's got a little bit of time, but Wang Sun's given him a little bit of racing room. He certainly could have pushed Anthony Liu a little bit wider, but that's not one of the hallmarks of the Singapore-based driver. Very gentlemanly in his approach. He may have won 20 rounds, but he hasn't done it by failing to finish. He's given a little bit more room there too, and you don't need to give Anthony Liu a second opportunity. He's taken the lead away. This is 3 starts in GT Asia Series at the Korea International Circuit and 3 victories pending. Of course, there's 3 minutes left in this race. We saw Hiroshi Hamaguchi leading into the final lap of race 2 last year, and he spun whilst under pressure from Anthony Liu and lost that advantage. So it's not over yet. We know that things can still change, but Anthony Liu's doing everything he needs to do, still pressing on, still in the low 210s. Adley Fong now has moved through on Frank Yu and onto the tail of Wang Sun. There's nothing much for him to gain apart from additional data. I don't think you'll see the young Lotus F1 development driver move through for position. There's nothing really for him to gain. Certainly Wang Sun is in a position, if anything happens to Anthony Liu, as we say, there's still a bit over 2 minutes left in this race. It's not over until they cross the checkered flag line, and that will be in just over a lap's time. 2:11.9 for Wang Sun, so his pace has been pretty good. Frank Yu's not dropped off by too much, 2:13.4, 2:10.5 for Anthony Liu, who has been in the 2:09s and the 2:10s since he got behind the wheel after the compulsory pit stop, and this is a very impressive result. This will be their 5th win since they started in GT Asia Series 12 months ago, so they are certainly one of the form teams. And we're talking about combinations. There's a little bit of smoke. Does it appear to be a little bit of smoke? Yes, there is trailing smoke from one of the Triple F racing cars. That appears to be Hiroshi Hamaguchi, who is actually shown in position number 5. He's 7 seconds down now on Yang Zin. So Yang Zin's managed to retain position in the number 9 car he shares with Max Voser. And that will be Sean Fu in the Caldarelli car that led the opening laps of this race. Hopefully there's nothing too dramatic with that car. We're talking about strong combinations, drivers that are very closely matched on pace. This number 37 car on screen is one of those. Kitasawa and Adley Fong, we see them a little bit further back, the car that's immediately behind, on screen now, behind Wang Sun. They are very closely matched on pace, and so too the car that has pole for race 2 tomorrow, the Jonathan Venter, Darrell O'Young, Craft Bamboo Racing Aston Martin. So there's some very strong combinations where the drivers are matched on pace that will have an impact in this championship this year. That said, we have a gentleman driver who's no slouch, 20 wins in his now 51 starts in the GT Asia Series. Wang Sun is holding down position number 2, and he'll take valuable points away from this race, and so too Frank Yu, who's now 5 seconds back from his long-time rival in position number 3. If nothing happens to these 3 cars, there are no technical or other issues over the remaining, well, essentially the clock has stopped. We have gone past time. This is the final couple of corners, and Anthony Liu will take the win. These guys have driven strongly. They've been very competitive from opening practice. I spoke to Anthony Liu at the start of this race and said, I'm surprised maybe you're a little bit further back than you might have been expected to be. And he just shrugged his shoulders and said, well, it's a long race. And he's right. Here he is. He's going to cross the line in position number 1. Celebrates with the team. That's victory for the BBT Ferrari 458 of Anthony Liu and Davide Rizzo. Stunning result. No one else has ever won here at Korea International Circuit. Every one of the 3 races contested so far has been won by the 2 drivers in the number 37 BBT Ferrari. 3rd place there to Frank Yu in the number 88 Interrush Aston Martin Vantage, and 2nd, of course, to the reigning champion, Mok Wang Sun, who was set up for that run very ably by World Endurance Championship Ferrari driver James Collado. So what a race. 4th across the line, hasn't quite made it, just about to cross the line now, is Yang Zin and Max Visa. They will be the leading Triple F racing team by ACM, McLaren rather. fifth. Their teammates Hiroshi Hamaguchi closed to within 5 seconds of Young's in the car he shares with Antonio Luzzi. Jean-Carl Verne and Jeffrey Lee in the J-Fly Racing Bentley Continental crossed the line in position number 7. Then it's Duncan Tappy and Jackie Jung, who did some of his best laps so far for the weekend, held on to position number 7. Then it was Sean Fu. The car was smoking very slightly, may have been a little bit of contact. Was crossed the line in position number 8 in the third of the Triple F Racing McLaren. So all 3 McLarens finished. Position number 9 to Zen Lowe and Ferris Fauzi. A great job from Zen Lowe to hang on to position number 9. And Adderley Fong and Kita Sawa were classified 10th with the pace, despite being a couple of laps down at the start of the race. They have managed to claim 10th place points for this round, and we'll be back to start from the front row of the grid for race 2 tomorrow afternoon. Thanks for joining us for round 1 of the GT Asia Series. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow afternoon for round 2 of the championship from Korea International Circuit for the 2015 GT Asia Series.